Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
This is the morning drive at Mira Business FM. From rising customer expectations to regional disruption, the pressure on delivery networks has never been higher. This morning, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most visible logistics operations in the UAE, the technology, perhaps, the leadership, the split-second decisions that keep one of the region's biggest logistics operations moving. How real-time data drives decisions, how you balance speed with driver welfare, and the innovations shaping the future of last-mile delivery across the Emirates and the wider region. Konstantin Kodsi, or Kosti, as he's known, is the Director of Logistics for the UAE at Talabat, with me in the studio. It's good to meet you.
Thanks a lot, Tim, for having me here today. So let me just start by giving a little bit of an introduction of Talabat. I think that would be good for our audience.
Jump in.
So Talabat is actually operational in 8 markets as of today. And after our Q1 results, which is an impressive thing for us at that scale, we are already growing at 23% year over year, quarter one. And then we are serving almost 6+ million customers across the region. We have 65,000 plus vendors and around 120,000 plus riders.
Okay, so you hit me with the figures early on. They're impressive figures. Let me sort of get the history of Talabat from you. I mean, I'm aware of Talabat. I've been here for some time, and I know there are a few iterations. There have been a few owners of Talabat, but I think most of us kind of take a business like yours a little bit for granted. And I don't mean that to be impolite, but it's pretty simple. It's kind of seamless. You know, you order, you pay, somebody turns up with your stuff. That's kind of the model. And it seems really easy. So I want to delve into that. There's obviously more to it. So tell me a bit about the history of Talabat, and then tell me about your role, because you're head of logistics.
For sure. We've been acquired by Delivery Hero, I would say, in 2016, 2017, around that time. Yeah. The company was founded in 2004 from Kuwait.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And since then, this is where we are. We IPO'd in 2024 on the Dubai Stock Exchange.
Right.
And this is, in short, the history of the company. The growth has been steady over the last years, which is, again, still impressive, provided the scale of the business that we have.
Yeah.
And where my role actually sits is, it's a privilege, I would say, to have this role, because it's a fun role. It sits at the intersection of strategy, execution, and innovation.
Yeah.
And trust me, Tim, there's not a lot of roles that actually allows you to live in those 3 different worlds. Because usually either you are expert in the first one, the second one, or the third one. But for you to be able to do the 3 of them is just beyond exciting. Now, on top of this, my main or core job, I would say, is looking after the cost per order, which is one of the biggest line items in the P&L and has a lot of commercial implications. And it actually covers almost everything, from your partner to the rider welfare, to the customer experience that you actually want to be providing, and finally to how competitive do you want to be in the market that you are operating in. And given the UAE is a very competitive market, that becomes even more important.
Sure.
Now, to your point, you're saying about the seamless stuff. I think this is flattening, because that means we're doing a very good job for us to be delivering such a seamless experience for you, while it is not actually that simple.
No, I mean, I know, and I'm underplaying it for obvious reasons. It seems to me that it's a little bit like a swan on a lake. It looks serene and it looks beautiful and it's regal. But you know, underneath, the feet are doing this. They're flapping like crazy. It must be a little bit like that behind the scenes. Incredibly complex, I think. You recently shared a video, a behind-the-scenes look at your life at Talabat on social media. What would you like more people to understand about the complexity of managing a logistics operation in the way that you do?
I'll go back to the point of you saying that, okay, you go to the app, I place an order, then I get it in 15, 20 minutes, and it looks seamless, right?
Yeah.
That order actually is being planned months before it's actually being placed. What do I mean by that? So every single company...
That worries me a little bit because it means you're inside my head. I don't like that.
Not yet, but hopefully with AI, we'll get there. I'm joking. So months ahead, we actually be planning what kind of demand we are forecasting. And that has a lot of machine learning models, plus the trends, plus what are we expecting in the growth of your population, etc. Once that is in and that is locked, then this is where us, from a logistics perspective, we understand how many riders do we actually need for us to maintain that seamless experience, right?
Right.
Then the operating model of Talabat is actually riders are not directly under us. We have partners, external partners that we contract with, and they are the ones that actually provide us with the rider supply that is needed. Okay. Now, once this is locked in and this is communicated across our partners, then our job becomes on onboarding the rider, training the rider, making sure that he has a road safety training, because that is one of the most important things.
Yeah.
Then providing him all the inventory equipment that he needs, understanding how the experience works from a vendor to a customer side. And then lastly, and the most important point as well, is the insurance, where he's insured and he's covered. And then he starts delivering the order. That's the first phase of it, right?
Right.
Then when you get weeks ahead, this is when it becomes getting even more complicated, because you will have to forecast the demand at a neighborhood level, at an hourly level, and then staff the riders depending on that. So we have as close as possible from a proximity perspective of a rider to that vendor for us to optimize the delivery time and deliver you the experience that you are expecting as a customer. Now, fast forward to the day itself, live operations. A lot of things can disrupt live operations. And this is where we have a live ops team that actually can step in, be it on ground or behind the systems that are running, and intervene for it to smoothen out or adjust and arrest whatever problem we are facing. And now the last step of it is, okay, you look at the performance, you look how you are actually performing across the days, across the hours, and then you adjust, and then you repeat that cycle all over again.
Okay, so incredibly complex, and even more complex in a city like Dubai, where it seems to me, I joked a few years ago that I went away for 4 weeks in the summer, and I was driving to work the day after I got back, and there was a big new tower that had just appeared. And I'm like, was that built in a month? What on earth is going on here? But we literally have neighborhoods popping up, it seems, constantly. So you have to plan for that. So you're planning in a city that's growing at a rate unlike probably any other city on the planet, and cities around the region in a similar way as well.
Yeah, which makes
a nice problem to have, but it's
a great problem to have, because think about it this way. This is a market. The UAE is one of the best markets in the world when it comes to growth and the continuous growth at this scale, right? And that is a great problem to have, because you want to be operating in such markets. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is, this is how you structure then your team and you structure your operation. And okay, how do we actually scout these locations? How do we actually have good partnership across with developers that give us the insights on which areas will actually be developed and at what time will they actually be done and unlocked?
Yeah.
And then you continue with the visits of the scouting until you figure out that those buildings now are done and they are open. And this is where you start increasing your coverage, or even look at some of our verticals that can actually open stores in these expanded areas. The likes of T-Mart, our grocery vertical that delivers to you in 15 to 20 minutes. And then the likes of our kitchens that actually are dark kitchens that have different brands operating from a single location, which can actually invest in opening there and servicing for these people.
Right.
And it's an important point, because those are the areas that you want to continuously win. So your growth and the next 3 to 5 years is actually continuing to defend your category position within the UAE.
Yeah. I mean, we all use the app. I'm starting to understand the engine behind it, kind of. But behind every delivery is massive real-time data, right? That's one point in your business. It's a phrase we hear all the time, real-time data. But in your world, what is the primary metric? Is it expected time ETA accuracy? Is it cost per delivery? Is it driver utilization? How do you weigh those against each other? Because you must be doing that on a daily basis.
Of course, and this is where optimization will always kick in, because some of the metrics you will need to will not always go hand in hand. They might go opposite to each other. But however, with certain optimization and thinking outside the box, the best approaches and solution is when you move those metrics together in the same direction. Now, when we're talking about utilization of the riders, that's one of the most important metrics, because it dictates as well part of the rider welfare when we're talking about the earnings. Second, when it comes to the customer facing, what we really care about is to be as reliable as possible, meaning that when you open the app, what is the last or first thing that you check when you're ordering? Do you check the promised delivery time, for example?
Good question. With food, with other things, much less so.
Okay, so let's say you're checking and it's 30 minutes, right? And then you receive your order in 60 minutes. How are you feeling?
Getting frustrated, slightly upset, thinking, will I use them again?
Exactly. Now, if I show you 60 minutes and you place the order and you received it in 60 minutes, how are you feeling?
That you've met my expectations.
Amazing. So that reliability piece is very important.
Gotcha.
So delivery time are important when you're trying to make your service as fast as possible for you to convert the people that actually like the speed part. And this, we are seeing more of a trend where the customer behavior is moving towards needing stuff as fast as possible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the reliability piece is the most important one, because at the end of the day, what you are expecting, we actually need to meet in a seamless way.
Well, this is the thing. Convenience is a thing now, right? 10 years ago, convenience in this kind of frame really wasn't a thing. 10, 15 years ago, we would pick up the delivery order on the way home and get home and get stuck in traffic. It would be cold and, there was frustration. Food wasn't as good. I'm going off on a tangent now, but you know what I mean. So now convenience is this thing. And I wonder, we're at this point where I was telling you a story off air. I used a delivery app for something recently. I could not have got to the store, bought the stuff, came back in the time that it was delivered. Just would not have been possible. So it's exceeding all expectations. So scaling in that way is incredibly complex. And then when you have to match that to the physical expansion of the city that we live in, you can see the issues. Fast isn't a preference. Fast is like a business model now, right?
I would say this is where we are moving, and it will at some point it will become a hygiene and not something that I actually offer to the customers.
Yeah. What's the secret to maintaining the operational resilience that you have? It's been tough times for the last 4 months, right? Particularly tough for most businesses. But how do you maintain that kind of resilience and make sure that deliveries are reliable? Because your thing needs to be, we deliver on time every time. That's kind of the point, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's a very good question, actually. And operation at that scale, Tim, will require you to already have SOPs and BCPs that are embedded in your operating model.
Okay.
That's the start.
Yeah.
And those should not be created in solo. What do I mean by this? Those are created hand in hand with authorities, with respective government authorities like RTA, Dubai Police, ITC, Abu Dhabi Police, right? For you to actually meet the local standard. So when things actually go out of hand, we are all aligned on how are we going to tackle this problem.
Right.
Now, any new problem and anything that you have on paper, when you go into execution, sometimes it won't be 100% the same. And this is where you keep an open line communication with authorities on how are we adjusting and what are the things and the approaches that we are actually doing. So for me, if you don't have that relationship, it's very hard for you to actually have a resilient operation. That's I would say the backbone of it.
Right.
Now, you go into another 3 things that I can touch point on, which is how you prepare your riders, the training that you give them, the safety angles, the insurance that they have. All these groundworks are there. Second, you have your team, because your team needs to be resilient enough for them to actually be able to carry this operation as well.
Right.
Right? And what was the third point?
So I want to pick up on that for a moment, actually. So there's a mindset in the business. How do you foster that? Because there are such high sort of customer expectations on a business like yours. I bet customer service are fielding some fairly fruity inquiries at times. Why was my food late? Why was it burned? All that kind of thing. But so there must be a real kind of culture at the company that you have to foster and grow as well. The mentality that people need to have.
Of course. I would say this is where my profile is a little bit not the normal profile that you see. I come from a professional basketball background. I've done that.
I saw you play a little bit. Yeah. I'll talk about the video later. Yeah.
I've done that for like almost 16 years. I've coached for 6 years in my career. And actually what this provides you and the skills that can actually be transferred into the business world are surprising and actually works.
Yeah.
Because in sports, for you to go through all the challenges and the injuries and the fights within the team or the losses that you go through and actually end up winning a championship, when you go through it, you learn, okay, how do you build that mindset? How do you prepare your team for them when they are facing the challenge? They are facing it in a calm way because they were already well trained that under pressure, this is how we are operating.
So the sporting mentality, if you like, that the idea that, I mean, forget the competitive side, put that to one side for a moment, but the idea that when you get knocked down, get back up. That's the thing, isn't it?
That's the thing. Plus, you need to endure.
Right.
The endurance is a key piece within how you need to operate. And you need to be okay to be knocked down. And you need to understand that this is part of the game. Okay, I'll be knocked down and then I'll
whether you like it or not at some point.
I'll tell you the challenging piece over there was, at the end of the day, those are human beings that are going through something probably for the first time.
Sure.
And the culture that Talabat created in a way where open line communication directly from Exco all the way down to every single team member, always being able to touch point on how every single person is actually doing and any support that is needed. And just coming off as a family, creating that family that is actually not with you in the country. Because if you think about it, the expat rate is super high and not every single person have their family with them here and they have them across another country.
Yeah, for sure.
So this makes it even more challenging because now you have your family checking up on you and asking what is happening, and you're feeling that you're alone here. So the more you create the vibes that you are actually not alone, we are all together in this, and we're covering up for each other and making sure that we keep this ship moving, because at the end of the day, you need to serve that community, and this is one of our main priorities during any disruption that is happening, is impressive. And Talabat has done a lot of good job across this phase from the people and culture function to provide us this support.
Okay. It's a heavily people business, even though we just see it as an app. I mean, there are lots of people behind the scenes. It's a good ethos to have. I want to talk to you a little bit about drivers, the riders, in a little while. But I'm interested, let's get back to the efforts that you have to make in adverse circumstances. You know, when things are disrupted, and not necessarily by what we've seen in the last few months, could be I don't know, rain, could be a change in weather that, you know, means you have to turn on a dime. How do you predict that? That's not even the right way to phrase it, but predictive and analytics manages the peaks, I suppose. But how do you account for those moments where you think, what's coming out of the sky? Like, you think back a couple of years to that rain event that we saw.
You took me back a couple of years ago.
Remarkable.
And even now, when it's happening, it became more of a BAU. But the challenge specifically to rain, Tim, is that it doesn't appear all the time on your forecast.
it's a particularly good example for you guys as well, because it's very dangerous, obviously, for the riders.
So if it doesn't show on the forecast, you cannot actually be well prepared for it. And hence why we have our SOPs that can allow us to mobilize as fast as possible and react to the weather condition that is actually happening. Now, one thing that I'm proud of at Talabat is that rider safety is a priority, meaning that it doesn't come as a trade-off with whatever is happening. And we have been tested on multiple occasions, and we actually closed our entire operations for several hours, which has actually cost us hundreds of thousands of orders.
Right.
But we've done that because it wasn't as safe for the riders to actually operate.
Okay.
And for you to be able to take such decisions, right, is...
Well, it
shows the value.
Well, it's the right
Talabat.
decision, but I bet anybody listening or watching now has had a point where a delivery rider, not necessarily from your team, but they've had a moment where they've thought that was a bit risky, that was too fast. What the hell is that rider doing? That kind of thing. So I think front and center for a lot of people is, how are these guys trained? What are the safety procedures? So tell me about how that works. What does a rider have to go through? I know you work with partners, but what does a rider have to go through before they can start work? In a little bit more detail. I know safety gear and everything else.
Okay, so one thing that we have built in is strong partnerships with companies like Belhassa in Dubai, companies like Emirates Transport in Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
And those are more of a practical road safety trainings that riders actually go into, and they have to go through cones on top of their driving license and all the things that they have to do. And how do I react in certain situations?
So additional testing over and above the...
Exactly.
Right.
Plus, additionally to our training models that tells the riders and educate the riders on what are different situations that he will be going through and how to operate against it. Now, this is all great, right? But I'll ask you, how will you know which rider to train? And this is the thing that I love the most about what tech actually enabled for us, because we have something that is called telematics. Telematics
I'm aware of it,
is on top of our rider app. What does telematics actually do? It actually tracks the rider driving behavior and then gives you a score. Now, this allows us to coach the low-scoring riders and prevent them to actually get into accident, for us to know that he is a reckless driver and we need to actually coach him.
So you can tell from telematics if somebody is switching lanes a little bit too sharply, or...
Yes.
And you can
switching
judge
lanes,
speed,
speeding up, speeding ahead
right.
On top of the limit, harsh braking. Is he actually speaking on the phone while he is delivering? Those are all metrics that we can actually track, and those are the components of the score that you actually get from every single rider. And now the way we're tracking this is how many perfect trip that rider actually has. And based on that score, this is how we target. And we've seen a very good improvement in the riders that have the low score go through the process of the coaching and the training and then go back on the field.
So the safety aspects can be improved that way.
Yes.
I would hope. That's the one side of it. At the same time, you can optimize number of deliveries, work being done, can't you? So that's what you have to balance there.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. No, I'm with you. We've nearly run out of time. I feel a bit bad because I haven't got through most of the questions that I wanted to, most of the points that I wanted to ask you about. Let me pick a couple of questions for you just to finish, just very quickly, Kosti. Yeah. All right. I wanted to ask you this because you're involved. This is kind of, I'm not saying you're living for this, but this is your life. This is what you're most involved with. The future. What's the biggest hidden challenge in logistics that, if a startup is a founder's listening to this interview at the moment, okay, Talabat's around since 2004, a vet in the space, no doubt about that. But what do people not pay attention to in logistics? That what's the thing that defines a winner in the logistics space, last mile delivery space?
We will need to go back to every single point that we have discussed in this interview.
Is it
If
really?
you want to actually form a winning logistics last mile operating model, all the points that we have discussed during this interview are the things that someone needs to go through for them to create that.
So basically,
on top
listen to
of
this
it,
whole
you-
interview again. I like
Yes.
that. You did my job for me, so I appreciate that. Final thing, what excites you about the future of logistics and delivery services? What makes you get up in the morning?
I would say we are fortunate to be living in the UAE. That's number one, because this is a country that is adopting AI in a very fast pace, I would say. They are betting big on that technology, and this technology is actually evolving as we speak, right? And Talabat being part of this ecosystem is actually doing the same. Now, that excites me because the capabilities that this tech is bringing are things that we thought were impossible, I would say, a couple of years ago. And as you go, it is allowing us to actually go back to the starting line and rethinking what kind of experiences are we actually creating to the customers, and what are the things that we can actually continuously do better or innovate around.
There's a lot more for us to talk about, isn't there? I didn't even get onto the AI question because I knew we need a lot more time for that. For now, Konstantin, or Kosti Kodsi, is the Director of Logistics for the UAE at Talabat. I've enjoyed talking to you. Thanks for coming in.
Same here, Tim. Thanks again.
I appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube right now, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio. Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
This is the Morning Drive, and this morning, a masterclass in motivation for professionals. Here is the concept. Instead of a simple how-to, a deep dive into the burnout versus grind debate. Do you like that?
Love that.
I spent ages working on that.
You did, because I know you did, because you always do, and you always send me a note the day before.
I know, I tried to sort of key you in. David McKenzie is the MD of Mackenzie Jones. You're sort of the Zen master at Mackenzie Jones, aren't you?
I'd like to think I am, but I suspect I'm not.
The man with the plan.
Man with a sort of semi-disorganised plan.
I'm wondering if you've even got any answers. I'm not sure. I have to say, by the way, thank you for the... David walked in this morning with a gift, a water bottle. Which is, I can't even...
Not just a water bottle, Tim. And I got one for Faraji as well.
Yeah, Faraji. Oh, that's very nice. It's black.
It's a proper MJ mug. You are now branded.
That's marvellous.
They're good, actually. We try and encourage, and I know this sounds a bit hippie, we encourage our guys not to use plastic.
A bit hippie.
I want people to use... We have a water machine in the office that isn't plastic. It's it's one of those ones you plug straight into the mains, filters it, and we have those for everyone. So everyone has their own one with a little name on the bottom.
That's so sweet. It's like being at primary school. It's
like the milk cartons.
Do you all sit in the carpet and have stories?
I love the way you've taken this away.
No, I think it's a great idea because, of course, rehydration is very important, particularly now because we're in 40-degree heat. Oh
my goodness me!
Anyway, see, I have got a sensible head.
No, I walked Raptor this morning, my dog, and it was at one point he sat down and you could see him looking at me going, "Just let's go home, mate. We've ticked the box. Just let's go home."
Those little puppy eyes.
I'm just broken. He's a Malamore as well. I could see him lying in the grass going, "It's just so hot."
Right. So the inspiration for today comes from a post. You sent me this. This is quite an old post. This is something around about 2018, but I mean, it's as relevant now, I think, as it was. And it was called 7 Ways to Motivate Yourself When You're Uninspired at Work. And of course, at work, sometimes you're not as excited as you might otherwise be.
Challenging, I think. Do you remember this was written 2 years before COVID?
That's a very good point. Well, it was written by a lady called May Bush, who was a former chief operating officer of Morgan Stanley. So has been around the corporate world at a very high level. She's now she's got a business called Career Mastery, which is all about...
She's a really clever lady, actually. I did a bit of Googling on her.
Well, I'm sure you did. It's all about corporate training. She works as a keynote speaker and a leadership advisor as well.
We're literally 5 minutes into this.
I know, I'm really sorry. We all want, right? Or maybe we need to feel that work has meaning. You got to have something other than just the financial side.
Yep.
Every day to get up and go to work, right? Beyond that sort of pure financial necessity. At the very least, work's probably better when it has some meaning.
Yes.
I think. Yeah. So there are two schools of thought here, and I think we start here. There's the grind it out camp versus the optimize your energy camp. Which one of those actually can scale a business? Do
you know what? I think it's a combo of both.
Okay.
And I think the grind it out is a mentality of when it gets tough, you just keep going. But I also think you need to have a very positive work environment. And I think I talked to both of you about this earlier. I think happiness is, the definition of happiness has changed in the work life.
Yeah.
So for me and you, it was very much, and I say this very loosely, they were often material things, financial. It was about having a house, having a car, having a pension, having a family, having a dog like Raptor. All those things. And I think what's happened now, I think the Instagram or the millennial generation or whatever it is called now, their definition's changed. And it's much more about their mental health, their ability to do things they enjoy, feeling inspired, feeling part of something, which I think is a really good thing personally, because I think it gives you but it's much more instant gratification. Where ours was, you get a flat, you then get a house, you then pay your more. It was more sort of.
It always felt like you were building towards dying.
Well,
kind of. A little bit extreme, but it was always building towards something.
And it's a bit like tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. It was always you keep going, and I think now the generation of people, their happiness at work is much more instant. It's much more about how do I feel now?
Yeah, okay.
It's the now rather than whatever. So I think, going back to your original question, I think it's a combination of both those things.
Okay, so we've all had those mornings where you get in and you look at your inbox and your emails there. I get it all the time and I think, oh, do I have to reply to that?
Usually from me, isn't it?
No, because you always WhatsApp, and there's always a little green circle there. 4, 8.
Yeah. Yes.
So your inbox kind of feels like a weight, right? So is the work slump a personal failing, or is it a natural response because we're under a lot more pressure? There's a lot more kind of stuff being fired towards us.
I think it is. But I also think people sometimes don't do the former of what they don't grind. I always say this to you, if you're 80% happy in your job on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, you're winning.
Okay.
Because you're never going to be 100%. You go through periods when you're super energized, other times when it's got quite difficult, it grinds you down a bit. The ones I see that over a 12-month period are happy with their work are the ones that when they have a challenge, they look at it and they go, right, what can I do to overcome this challenge? Do I need help? Do I just keep pushing through? Do I look at it from a different angle? So it's the way they attack that obstacle or that issue. And it could be you're just having a slump at work, and sometimes you just have to push through it.
Yeah, no, I kind of think so. Is uninspired at work just a polite term for being lazy?
No, I don't think it is. No? I think I've been uninspired in my own company sometimes. And that's down to how...
They can't all be great.
No, how I felt, the people around me, what they've been like. And then sometimes, like I had a chat with my intern, who's now a full-time marketing person. And I was thinking really, I was trying to write an article. I was really demotivated. I couldn't think of what to write. And I didn't want to write the usual LinkedIn rubbish where you just talk about blah. I wanted to write something that I really felt was positive about the industry and what was going on now. And I sat down and said, Mira, you're 21 years old. Give me some inspiration. And she said, okay, what are you trying to achieve? How are you trying to do it? When do you want it done by? What's your outcome? And she started... And I was like, brilliant. She just got me thinking in a different way.
She needs to be running your company.
Won't be far.
Yes, it can't be that far away.
But you know what I mean? You sometimes need an external party to reboot you a bit.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Okay. So a slump isn't necessarily a character flaw.
No, in most people, but I just gave you an example of, we had one recently that was, the glass was constantly half empty. And if you're like that, you affect the people around you. You affect how you're perceived. And ultimately it affects your work.
And negative people have such a negative effect.
I always say this when people say, well, I'm not motivated at work. It's because you're hanging around with people that aren't motivated. Try looking at the people in your business who are doing really, really well. How are they doing well? Try and align yourself with them. Because what happens is you come home and you go, I'm not motivated. Because you've been talking to, Ahmed or Ethel or whatever, and they've been telling you, oh, it's rubbish here, I don't like it. You naturally spiral down into a slump. What you should be doing is talking to the highest performers or the people that seem the happiest. Go, tell me, I'm having a bit of a bad time. How are you getting out? Just get them to give you some advice.
Okay. So let's go back to this article. The author, May Bush, makes this suggestion, right? That working harder is often the worst response to a slump. I guess that's kind of an overthinking way of looking at it.
I don't think that's right, do you?
I think it's not that you're going to go away and not do the work. It's just, I think it's just a step back as far as I can see.
Okay.
But why is it then that it's difficult for founders to sometimes expect that less might actually mean more? Maybe that there is too much pressure, so the valve has to be kind of released. Do you know what I mean?
As a founder of a business, and I obviously founded MJ, I always try and work harder than everyone else in my company.
That's what leading from the front.
It is, but one of my senior people said, why? And I said, because I want to motivate. And he said, but you don't need to do it by working harder. It was a really good analysis of a situation.
That's a good example of this, because that's a less is more thing, sure.
Exactly. Yeah, so I said, well, what do I do in the company that makes people want to work effectively? And he said, engage with them, talk about stuff you're doing, just share more of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, because people are inspired by that. Rather than you head down just cracking on doing your own thing, share the stuff you're doing and be more vocal. I'm very vocal in the office, by the way. Yeah, I know, it's a nightmare.
Yeah,
But I like a really energetic work environment, and I like people chatting, and I like people talking about the series they've watched or a new client they've won. It doesn't have to all be about work. We have the radio on at work. Give you an example.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, in doing that, you become approachable, but you're also communicating, aren't you? Because you're talking to people, and you may not realize you're doing it, but you're kind of telling people the odd kind of, not secret, but some of the, there's a little bit of more of the secret sauce available, sort of thing.
Absolutely. The bit is, I do a lot of business development. I'm always talking to clients, and I always do that in the office in front of people. Because they hear my process of engaging with those clients and how I do it.
Right.
And I got told that about 4 or 5 years ago. Somebody said to me, the best thing I ever hear is you on the phone to clients, because I learn every day rather than you sitting and telling me.
Yeah, okay. So and that is still leading by example. So there's meaning in that, isn't there?
When I have a bad day, I'm very vocal about it. I literally said the other day, I have had a completely non-productive day. I haven't achieved anything. I haven't earned my salary. In my view, I'd be putting myself on a red card. And somebody said, why? I said, I've called all these clients. I've never got through to them. That's fallen apart. That's done well. I'm not in a good place.
And what did the person say?
Would you like a coffee? And
that's the answer.
It was, you know what? It was the answer.
Probably was.
Sat and we talked about this great series we were watching. Took my mind off it. I went back and rebooted myself. But I'm like that as a character. Some people aren't.
Yeah, okay. So that was just one of your 20%.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wake up some mornings, like this morning I went to go and train. Yeah.
Not happening.
I never do that.
Really?
I tell you why. My missus has gone back to the UK for 4 months. Just me and the dog.
Ah, right, okay. And Raptor wasn't up for it this morning either, was he? So didn't want the walk.
He was on his back.
Yeah.
Scratched my belly. Literally, he was. It was. But I think going back to a more serious point, some days you wake up and you really have to motivate yourself to go to work. So the best thing to do is get into a routine. Get your coffee. Get in the car. Put your favorite podcast on. Mira Business FM. Do all those things that mean that you start to get your mind motivated. So when you arrive at work, you're in a much more positive frame of mind.
Okay. So you need to have according to this article, and I think this is a really good example, you need to find meaning. If you're bored, you need to, I suppose, rediscover the meaning, right?
Yeah.
She gives the example of the janitor at Cape Canaveral, who told the president, it was John F. Kennedy at the time in the 60s, that he loved his job because he was helping to put a man on the moon.
I think that's brilliant.
Isn't this great? But the wider picture of that is that this guy, who to all intents and purposes wasn't part of the space program at all, but he's contributing to the space program.
Yeah.
That's the point. But he understood the mission, the vision of the company that he's employed by, and got that he was making a contribution, not the largest, he wasn't designing the rockets, he was making a contribution to the larger goal. And that's, if you can get that, if you can feel like that in a company that you work for, that's pretty inspiring. You're not going to have slumps.
I think that's a really good story.
Yeah.
And I think the very nature that janitor felt that he actually said, I feel I've put a man on the moon. That meant he really bought into, what he was doing. But example, when I was walking this morning with Raptor, all the guys are gardening, the gardeners around the ranches and stuff, they do all the stuff. I always say good morning to them. And it's amazing when you say good morning to them, they literally beam, because I think people don't see them sometimes. So I look at them and go, what's motivating you to do your job every day? It's obviously a salary for their family back home, whatever. It's boiling hot. If somebody turns around and says good morning to you, it's just that little spark of something that's changed your day.
Yeah, but it's also I guess, I don't know, but for somebody like that, it's the end result. You plant something and then you see it grow, and then all of a sudden it flowers, and I think there's a real sense of achievement. I've managed to grow basil the last few years, and I feel like
is it good
gardener.
basil?
I use it. Yeah, I use it. I cook with it. Everything. Yeah. It's just on the balcony there, and I grow it, and I feel it's probably the easiest herb to grow. There's no achievement in it.
I think that's really good.
It makes you feel good. So I guess maybe that's part of it. Say you work for an insurance company, and you're not really excited. But say you reframe it, so your purpose could be protecting people from accidents.
Yeah.
That's one way of doing it. If you're in travel and leisure or hospitality or something, instead of having to sort out people's issues, you're providing joyful life experiences. That's one thing. Or if you're in a bank and you're a bank teller and you're like, I'm just transacting and I'm typing all the time, but you're helping businesses to flourish.
But also, you got to almost boil it down to very small things. Like if you're a bank teller, it's your interaction with customers, solving their problems. Each one of those is a positive in the life positive goal, on the ledger. So I think there's a bit in there about what do we call them now? Air stewardesses, hostesses. What do we call them anymore?
Cabin crew.
Cabin crew.
Yeah.
My daughter-in-law's cabin crew for Emirates,
Right.
and I said to her, when you're doing that thing when you're safety belt and you're reading the safety instructions, does anybody pay attention? She goes, 3 years ago,
I watched that.
Emirates took the view, nobody pays attention to the cabin crew doing that stuff. So let's produce a video that was quite amusing. I then flew on EasyJet, and there was they do the manual way because it's EasyJet. There's no screen, and it was brilliant.
There's no wings.
They were taking the mickey. They were making jokes and stuff. Everybody was glued to them because they made it more of an enjoyable experience, which is a very dull process.
Yeah, okay. I always watch that out of politeness, to be honest with you.
That's because I'm a bit like you. Because
I always think I should.
I always look at it. If I see my daughter on the plane, I always just I pay attention to her because she looks at me and she just does this all the time.
The two fingers in the eyes coming out.
Exactly.
If you're listening to this.
Sorry, that didn't work on radio, did it?
No, I liked it. So here's something else, right? What is if you are bored and you're searching for meaning? Oh, this is becoming very metaphysical, but you know what I mean. What's the energizing meaning behind your work? Because there must be a reason that you're there. Otherwise, you wouldn't have taken the job. In most instances, right? So I got an example of this, right? I sat and I was thinking about this last night. The thing about this job is because it's kind of the same thing every day. I'm doing 4 or 5 interviews.
Yeah.
They're reasonably long, so there's quite a lot of notes for that.
Some probably aren't that interesting for you personally.
Sometimes,
because
sometimes it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
But for the other person it is. So there's a sense of respect there. But what it actually is, it's this kind of sense of discovery because there's always something to find out. There's always something to learn. There's always something to talk about. And I quite like talking to people, much as my wife would think I'm a grumpy old. But getting information is quite a useful thing, right? Learning something is quite a useful thing to do. So I always think if in each interview there's one either interesting question or maybe interesting question and answer or just answer, that's the win. So all the time spent prepping, recording and editing and all that kind of stuff, one day I'll get that far. But I always think if there's one thing that stands out, then that's a job done. So that gives it meaning.
But do you not sometimes you're in the middle of dinner with your wife and you suddenly go, I had that chat with that guy about the cars or the real estate. And you when you're in a conversation with somebody, you bring up the stuff you've learned.
Yeah, true. True, yes. A guy said to me today, what was that about? And then it branches into other things. So that kind of gives it meaning. But I think the point I'm trying to make is you have to constantly reinforce that and question yourself. There's a challenge that you need to offer yourself. It's not just that your job, HR has to inspire you and look after you and consider your mental health and all that stuff. You also have a responsibility to do that yourself.
Yeah,
I think
if you look at anybody that does a very menial job, and it could be something that's very repetitive, so it could be an accountant, an insurance firm that's doing this, or it could be a waitress. But when you meet a waitress or a waiter, and they're funny, they're chatty, they make your meal so much more enjoyable, don't they? And you give them a bigger tip.
Sure.
So if you're in a work environment where you're going to the office every day and you're having the same feelings for a couple of weeks, you just not inspired. What do you typically do? You either talk to somebody or you just get on with it. My view is you should always do the former because everyone goes through those times in life. And if you need to be remotivated, often it might be a peer, a colleague, or it might even be your boss.
Yeah. Okay. And The other side of it is you never quite know how somebody's day is going, or how they feel, or what may have happened at home, or whatever. That's something to think about. It's thinking about other people as well, isn't it? So how do you reframe it? So a few examples there, but there are certain things, I suppose. I mean, how do you reframe a spreadsheet, for example?
Well, if you've been doing spreadsheets, do you find solace in numbers? Do you like that mathematical solving things? If that's not, so example, I'm a recruiter, okay, and as you well know, but I run a company.
Yep.
The bit I don't enjoy is running the company. I love client meetings, meeting candidates face to face, and going out and winning business. That's my happy time. I love going out, chatting to people like you. We have very similar parallels. You know, I enjoy engaging people, learning more about their companies. For me, that's a really interesting. What I don't like doing is doing the medical insurance, doing the licensing, doing the bank transfers. So what I took of you years ago is, right, because I'm not good at those things, I need to focus on the things I'm really good at. So I hired somebody who could do those things. That doesn't mean I negate any responsibility for them. It means I take away some of the day-to-day stuff I don't like, and I found somebody who really loves doing those things, which meant that as a collective of two, my company was better organized and better run.
Okay, so reframe, look for purpose in the stuff that you think is mundane. But it brings us nicely onto the next point, actually, because that's all about focusing on strength, the metric that once you know what your special strengths are, spend at least 50% of your time doing those things, because, of course, you know, that's what you're good at. You do have to know what your strengths are, though.
Well, you have to have an idea.
Know yourself. We have a pretty good idea to do that, but that's really important.
Do you think most people don't?
Sometimes I think people miss what they're really good at because they're in a role and they've kind of developed into a role. It may not have been exactly the right role in the first place. Do you know what I mean?
Give you a really good example. One of my friends is a managing director of a very large insurance firm here. He said to me about 10 years ago, "I can't wait till I retire." And I went, "Why? You've got something planned?" He goes, "I hate working." Now,
we'd all rather sit on a porch.
No, but I suddenly said to him, so he works in an insurance company. I said, "You've been in the same role for 25 years. Have you ever enjoyed it?" He said, "No." I said, "Why didn't you get out of it?" I got stuck in it.
Yeah.
So what he does, his social time is the bit where he reinvigorates himself. He does his job day to day. Bear in mind, he's the MD of a company. Slightly worrying. I won't tell you because they might all leave. But yeah, my view is on that basis, you work in your life. You probably work. Let's be conservative. 60% of your life is work, getting childhood and retirement. That's a big chunk of your time to be doing something you don't enjoy. So if you're in a job you really don't enjoy, we're talking below 50%. You need to rethink your options.
You do. I guess a lot of people don't have the opportunity.
Very true.
And that's, you know, we can sit in our ivory tower here and debate that. But so that's one side. But if you can, what's the point of getting out of bed if you don't like doing it? Why not find something else?
But I think most people have opportunities. Admittedly, here there is a certain demographic that don't, because they're here to work to provide for their families, and that's their goal. You know,
Fair.
I am here to provide for my family for the future generation.
Right.
Example, my maid Mary, she is here to put her son through university, etc. She's been with me 10 years. We love it a bit. She's never leaving us. I'm going to take her back with me to UK. And me and my wife and Mary, that's it.
Does Mary know this yet?
No.
Right, okay.
Probably wants to go back to the Philippines.
Mary, it's just burnt out. I feel for you.
But I once said to her, "Do you like your job?" And she goes, "I love living in this house with my family." And so her sense is more of a belonging. We treat her well. She has the boys that come back and see her. So there's other bits beyond her job that make it interesting. And also environment's nice, etc. Yeah. But I think if you're an individual that's in a commercial environment, we're talking from the area I look at, which is sort of middle management up to senior, you will always have the opportunity to change your job in some capacity.
Yeah.
If you're an HR person and you're doing a generalist role and you say, "I hate the ER bit, the employee relations bit, I hate the operational bit, I really love doing talent or learning and development," you need to look at that and go, right, let me start pushing my job towards that, but make sure I engage with my company to let them know what I want to do.
Okay, so let's take the example of the MD. Your mate, though, who's been in 25 years in the job, he just doesn't get any fulfillment from.
Yeah.
Let's say you're a founder right? And you have to do the things that you maybe don't like. Maybe some of the things you hate because, it's your business. You've got to go through it.
Yes.
How do you find the sweet spot when you're forced to work on maybe things that you're weaker at a lot of the time?
I do have that issue, actually. There are some things in my job I really don't like. I really dislike doing them, but I do them because I know that the totality of my job comprises of that 20%.
Right.
So
you just put it in that 20% box.
I put it. It's got to be done.
Right.
Another analogy. I'm a triathlete. I love running, love cycling, hate swimming.
Okay.
But I have to do it because if I don't do it, I won't finish the race.
What's wrong with swimming?
Just boring. I hate it. I'm actually not bad at it. But I just find it dull. I think one of my arms is longer than the other as well. I'm not sure. I'm sure that's physically not possible, but I seem to get around in circles. Anyway,
I've got one of my fingers is quite a lot shorter than the other. Look at that. See that? My little fingers, substantially shorter.
You learn something new every day.
I know.
On this show.
I can't believe I just did that.
But going back to the bit, so how do I deal with it? So as we've grown as a business, I've tried to look at how do I, as an individual or a founder, maximize my time and effort to make the most amount of money for my business. So I've realized that the bit I really love, I make the most money on, but I realize I still have to do that other bit. So I just do it, and I do it to the best of my ability, and I don't shirk it. I don't procrastinate. I do it. I typically do it first, and then go on to the stuff I love because it's a reward.
Okay.
Do that, I reward myself with a bit of business development.
Maybe that's a good way to do it. Maybe it's the right way for you.
I don't know. I've been doing this for years, and we're successful, so there must be something there. But my biggest success, I've always hired really good people that have got strengths that I don't have.
Well, let's talk about people, because the team around you, the people around you, the energy that they have, how much does that affect your personal output? Because that's something you have to consider. Maybe you're not in with the right people all of the time. Well, the cool kids or the geeks, wherever your thing is.
I think that's a massive part of it. And I think when I see people in an organization that come to me and say, I'm unhappy in my company, I say, give me 3 reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the job I'm doing. Tell me why. Well, I don't feel motivated. Why? Because the people around me just don't give me any energy. Is there anybody else in the same situation as you? No. You could be the catalyst here.
Yeah, okay.
So my view, if you're in that environment where you feel that you're demotivated, are there people around you that are motivated? Spend time with them. Don't spend time with the negative Nellies, the ones that aren't happy, because that's never going to make you feel better about your life. All it's going to do is compound your view of why you're unhappy.
Yeah, okay.
You know what it's like? I always remember I had a really, really interesting recruiter that joined me years ago. And he was a lovely guy. And he was no good as a recruiter, which is a real shame. He was such a positive person. He so wanted to do it. And I sat down with him one day and said, look, you're fantastic for the office. I love you being here. It makes my day brilliant. But I don't think you're a good recruiter. And he went, I know.
Really?
And he said, I just love working here. And I said, well, so we broke down what he was good at. He's now doing superbly well as a broker somewhere, as a finance broker, because he's very good with numbers.
Right.
Numbers bit, but he wasn't very good at placing people, the EQ area in emotional intelligence. He was no good at that. He's very good with analytical numbers, and he's rocketing it now. He's doing so well.
So that's another side to this, isn't it? That if you're in a role and you're not really sure, and you're in a slump, you can't really find meaning, it might be that you have to examine the simple fact that you're not doing the right thing for you.
Absolutely. And I think people are afraid to do that. Going back to your point, some people don't have a choice. You've got a family. You've got family at home to support. There's all the things, the physical contributors that make you stay in that job. Salary, rent, there's all these things. What you sometimes have to do you see yourself in that same job in 5 to 6 years' time? If you go, I hope I'm not here in 5 or 6 days, you need to move jobs.
It's probably time to get out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Learning a new skill or the learning pathway, if you like, can that solve a motivation crisis? Or is that maybe just another distraction? Is that another excuse?
No, my mate, he's the MD of the insurance firm. He's a very good golfer. So when he finishes work, he goes on the golf course. That remotivates him to do the next day.
Okay.
So you might want to look outside of work to give you a bit of energy. But the reality is he should have years ago looked at that and gone, I'm not suited for this. I'm probably not doing a great job. The irony is I've met some of his people who work for him and say he's really good. I don't understand that.
Well, obviously good at the job.
He's very good at his job.
He enjoys the salary, I'm sure.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to do it. And my view is I love what I do. You know this. I love being a recruiter.
To be honest, I'm fed up with hearing it.
So is Faraji. Faraji's playing Snake now.
He is a snake. On his 2007 Nokia 3.
Nick's Nokia 6310.
Oh dear! I've told him he should get a smartphone, but he's very traditional.
But yes, your point being is a very good one. If you analyse what you're doing and you get up in the morning and every day you don't want to go into work, you've got to analyse why you don't want to go into work, and it could be the job you're doing. Maybe not the company; it could be the job.
Okay. What about mentoring somebody?
Yeah, this is a really good thing, and we talked about this ages ago. I don't think people do it enough here because it's always good to talk to somebody outside of your organisation to get a very clear view of yourself and maybe what you're good at. And you need to do that over quite a long period of time because whenever you meet somebody the first time, it's a bit show and tell. You're giving them your best side. You're not giving them your worst side or your real side. You're trying to impress them. Everyone does by human nature. The longer they get to know you, the more they'll get to understand your motivation, your drivers, all those sorts of things. And the better their advice will be.
Yeah, that's true. You mentored me a little bit, actually, a few years ago.
Did I?
remember. Yeah, you did. Yeah. When I was
I remember, yeah.
let go, you said quite a few things that I thought, no, I can hold on to that. I'm rewatching The Bear, the TV show. Have you watched The Bear?
About the cook, yeah. Sorry,
about
chef.
The chef.
Sorry.
Yeah,
He's brilliant, isn't he?
Oh, he is good. Jeremy Allen White. But there's I think it's the fourth season because they have the fine dining restaurant and there's the little beef sandwich place at the back. But there's a mentor come in with the guy who wants to grow his business in some way in the little beef sandwich place, which is doing amazingly. And of course, the fine dining place is struggling out the front. But it's interesting because it's done really, really well. And you can see how this guy's kind of happy in the business, but knows something's not quite right. But you can see this, it's ignited something. Yeah. And that, I figure, is how you should feel if you do turn to somebody and say, look, what can I do here to make this better? That's what mentoring's about.
I think the mentoring thing we talked about ages ago was a really, really good session there, actually, because somebody reached out to me after that and said, how do I choose a mentor? And I said, don't naturally choose somebody who's really successful in your industry. Maybe choose somebody who's completely outside of your industry because they'll give you a much more unbiased view of what you should do, potentially.
That's a really good point to make. Somebody's maybe a few steps removed from it. What about the sort of personal responsibility? If you are in a slump, you're bored at work, you're not sure where it's going, should I be here, should I not be here? What does it look like to change how you perform a task rather than just, as you say, you just get that stuff out of the way that you don't like. But if you force yourself to change your approach, so you really challenge yourself is what I'm saying. Yeah,
and I think people don't do that. I think people are...
We get our routines.
Yeah. I think if I look at people who I've seen over the years who've not been motivated, it's usually because their manager's no good, they're in the wrong job, whatever. But the ones who are in the right job, they always need remotivating. And it could be that as a manager, you need to recognize when a person is demotivated and why they're demotivated. But rather than just let it carry on, talk to them. But if you're the person that is demotivated, you've got to reach out to somebody and say, look, I'm doing this every day. I'm not really enjoying it. It's a brave thing, by this. I need to get remotivated. What do I need to do? Or what can you help me with to get me refocused on what I really enjoy, which is 6 months ago, I loved this job. Things have changed. Analyze what has changed and get somebody to help you. In many ways, you can't solve it yourself sometimes. It might just be, look, just pull yourself together, refocus, get moving on it. The summer's approaching now. Summer's a tough period in the Middle East because it's meteorically hot. We don't go outside so much apart from run around the malls. And you then get into a process of you go to work, you come home. You go to work, you come home. Yeah. You need to sort of reboot your energy level sometimes.
Okay. What if you try all of the things that we've talked about but you're still kind of stuck. Is that a sign that you need to either you need a break or do you need to like make a change?
Could be just a break.
Yeah.
Again, I mentioned the summer thing. It's a fairly brutal summer when you've been here 3 and a bit months in these temperatures, and you go away for a 2-week holiday and you come back and you're completely remotivated.
Yeah, true.
But it could be the worst thing or the thing you need. This is a call to change your job. Do something different.
Okay. I want to go back to the article a little bit here because May Bush says we should, where's the quote? We should innovate on the how rather than just pushing harder. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I wonder, have you got any examples to illustrate that? Innovating how we do things rather than just pushing through. Aside from your example of, I get the stuff I don't like, get it out of the way, and I reward myself because I think that's a valid way to do it.
It is. No, and I sometimes look at myself and go, could I just do this differently? So
Right.
I'm trying to look around that. Here's a really good example. When people do repetitive jobs like accountants, data inputters, and things like that, how do they motivate themselves every day? And I always look at it and go, well, what do you really? Just look at your job, break it down into 10 bits. Write this on a piece of paper or on your screen. Break it down into segments of your day. 9 to 10, exactly. And over the next couple of weeks, work out what parts of your day were really interesting, and then figure out what tasks you were doing that made that interesting.
Do you know there's something in that? In my mid-20s, I worked at a radio station, and we didn't have. I had a laptop because I thought I was one of the really cool kids, but I was quite interested in all that stuff. Maybe slightly geeky, if I'm honest. Thinking back now, probably really geeky. But there was no official kind of filing system for all this new music collection that was coming in.
Ooh.
So I thought I'm going to do a little database.
Nice.
And it was a huge number. It was CDs in those days. It was a huge number of things. So I did it. So I would take like 10 CDs and do those. And that would take me half an hour. So I just broke it down into blocks. It took me a few months to do. But I got into this moment where this really repetitive work, and I'd listen to the music as well while I was playing it sometimes. I like my music. But I got really into it and I really loved it. But it was just a really mundane, repetitive task that nobody wanted to do. But when it was done, this is the other side. So I broke it into blocks, quite liked it, listened to songs. But when it was done, everybody used it, everybody loved it because it was a cross-reference.
You've highlighted that you enjoyed the process of doing that,
even though it was really dull.
But it doesn't matter. Some processes are really dull. I go on Nadal Sheba on my bike and I do what we call interval training.
Right.
5 minutes on, 3 minutes off, and I do it every single week, twice a week.
Yeah.
It's repetitive stuff, but what it does, there's a goal in mind. And that goal is like yours to finish your collection, to produce a finished article. Mine is to go to a race, and I'm fitter and fitter. But if you look at your day-to-day job, you have to look at it in chunks. Beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day. Which parts of those days have you enjoyed? Don't just say going home or having a coffee. What part of your day-to-day work? So, example, I had a meeting with a client yesterday at 3:00. It was I really enjoyed the meeting. It was the guy was very interesting. I spent an hour and a half with him, and it motivated me for the rest of the day.
Right, gotcha.
When I was doing some really rubbish tasks, writing stuff.
At 4:30 in the afternoon, where you're thinking, what am I having for dinner? Will Raptor welcome me home?
He did.
Well,
I got home, then I had another meeting at 5:30, and then I had a meeting at 6:30. Those weren't as compelling or interesting, if I'm really honest with you.
Right, okay.
But I still went into those with a sense of enthusiasm because of my meeting at 3:00.
Because you're hoping it's going to live up to it, and you've got there's a bit of activity.
Yeah, it didn't. It was a meeting with the bank. It was very boring. Person was very boring, and I couldn't sum up any enthusiasm for that call. But I did it because I had to do it, and I did it because it solved a problem.
Okay, so there was an aim there.
Yeah, but sometimes there is just a goal.
Yeah.
You just have to get there, whatever happens.
Okay. It's a great phrase I came across when I was researching this, and it's this one. I think you'll like this. Motivation is an invisible current. Isn't that good?
Be using that.
Yeah, I know, I bet you will.
Changing my LinkedIn title.
I tell you, LinkedIn will love that.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Well, actually, interesting what this client said to me yesterday. He's coming off LinkedIn.
Really?
Because he just said it's turned into Instagram. There's no value as a community for business people anymore. Bit harsh, but I see where he's going with it.
Yeah, that is harsh, but there are times when you just think, your heart sinks. I know.
I see a couple of my recruiters, the posts they do are so self-obvious that they're just about talking about themselves. There's no value for a candidate or a client. Our environment's amazing. We look after our people. We have this, we have that. Same old stuff every time.
Yeah.
And I go, why have you posted that? To make you feel better or to make everyone think you're an amazing company? Probably a bit of both.
Are you like, are you going to remain working here after writing that nonsense?
Well, the thing is, I think it's turning into that a bit now. I look at some of the posts on there and I'm thinking, when we write blogs and when I write blogs, it's meant to be value for candidates and clients. It's meant to be an opinion that is a formed one about either the market or about my discipline, which is HR. Right. I look at some of my competitors and some are brilliant. Some have wrote some really good stuff, but I look at a couple recently. It's pictures of them in the office and their dog in the office, and I'm like, starting to lose the will to live a bit.
It's not Raptor, is it?
Raptor's not allowed in the office. He would destroy it.
Fair enough. So let's finish off then. So what are the do's and the don'ts if you're bored at work? Don't take on too much. Don't try to do everything yourself, I suppose, would be something. Or, maybe do pick yourself a project to get your teeth into to try.
Just remember, some days aren't great. Accept it. Move on. Finish your day and go, right, that day's over. I'm going to go back home, do whatever I'm doing, and I'm going to come in tomorrow and just go for it.
Yeah.
Have a positive attitude. The other bit is do not hang with the negative Nellies. Don't sit with those people that are negative all the time because that's going to bring you down. It'll make you feel bad. Also engage with your boss or somebody in your company is doing well and ask them how they do it, how they motivate, what they do that's good. And just come into the environment where you feel like you are adding value to your business. If you feel you don't see the company vision, speak to the MD, speak to the boss, say, look, what are we trying to do? What's our objective? How can I help you? All those sorts of things.
Okay.
Get you noticed as well.
I think people do. I think there's also an element, and we kind of touched on this earlier, that you have to sort of challenge yourself and you have to be ready to, put something of yourself into it, even when you need to put yourself out there a little bit, I suppose, even if you don't want to. I mean, my example would be here, guests that I find quite intimidating.
Me.
Present company excluded. You may have noticed.
You just laughed then.
I know. He wonders where this is going. But genuinely, oil, energy journalists, people, specialist journalists who come in. We had a guy came in yesterday, and the thing about it is, he's a really good guy, don't get me wrong, but he really knows a lot more than I do.
But how did he make you feel?
Oh no, he's very giving and very honest. Yeah. But the point of it is, I have to challenge myself and really prep and really try to get on top of the subject. And there are lots of other things to do, but I really have to make a lot of effort as well. Prep, listen, concentrate harder.
But there's a good example. How have you see that the obstacle is this person knows an awful lot about their industry and business.
In a way, yeah.
So then the way you attack that is you pre-prep. Whereas with me, it's back of a fag pack, you have a coffee and we have a chat. Do you know what I mean?
It kind of is, actually.
But that's fine. That's not necessarily a bad thing because I think I have some clients I go to and we have a chat. Yeah. I have other clients I go to, it's very formal. Do I enjoy one more than the other? No, because I like being challenged. Yeah. And I think you do. So when you meet the oil guy, there's a challenge that you can understand a bit more about his industry so that you are more versed when you meet him next and you're more on the wavelength to understand his particular industry.
But it's recognizing that you need to do that.
Yes.
And standing up and kind of fronting up to it, isn't it? There's another thing that we haven't really touched on this at all, I suppose. It could just be sometimes if you're in a slump at work, it's just purely physical. You're just too tired.
Yes.
And it's not just about mentally tired. Maybe you're doing other things. You could be juggling too many plates. You could be over training, whatever it is. And you get to that point where you're past the optimal point? Maybe it's just a question of getting a few early nights.
Somebody came to me the other day and said, about 4 o'clock, said, "Do you mind if I go home early?" I said, "Sure, you're okay." He goes, "There's nothing wrong with me. I'm just tired.
Yeah.
I'm really knackered." And I said, "Did you sleep well last night?" "Yep." And I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "Is there everything all right in your family?" He said, "Yeah, perfect. I'm just physically tired. I think I'm a bit done." And I said, "When was your last holiday?" 6 months ago. I said, "Mate, you need to be booking a holiday."
Probably does, yeah.
But he
recognised it.
Yeah, and he went home, and next day, fine as anything.
Okay.
Came in and said, "Thanks very much for that." I said, "No problem," because I much prefer somebody comes and say, "Look, I'm done. There's nothing really wrong. I'm broken. I'm tired. I just need some time out." And I'm fine, no problem. If it continues on repetitively, there's a bigger issue. But he was just done.
In all your years, last question, because we're over time, as is always the case. In your many years of, your experience as a warhorse of sorts, is there something we can all do? For anybody sitting in an office at the moment and you feel like a cog in the machine, is there one thing that you could click your fingers that might help?
Yeah, think of a time when you really enjoyed your job.
Right.
And figure out what's changed.
Good way to finish. I think David McKenzie is the guru. He's the man with the plan. He's the Zen master. He's a lot of things. But provider of
owner of
rehydration
the Raptor.
Bottles. Yeah, owner of the Raptor, indeed. At the regional recruitment firm consultancy, Mackenzie Jones. Always good to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. A reminder, this full interview will be posted to our Mira Business FM LinkedIn page.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio. Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
Heritage businesses next on the morning drive. So from shifting consumer habits to digital transformation, economic uncertainty, businesses across this region are kind of being forced into this position where they have to rethink how they're going to grow. So for companies with decades of history, maybe centuries of history, staying relevant means balancing tradition with constant innovation. Now, joining us this morning is Nahel Sello, who is Creative Director at Cedar Global, here to talk about how a business with more than 130 years of history continues to expand across international markets, adapt to changing customer expectations, and navigate the future of retail and design. Nahel, it's good to meet you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Good to have you here. It's remarkable. I said to you off air just now, I know you guys as kind of the blinds guys, Venetian blind, window dressing and all that kind of stuff. And I was racking my brains trying to think of somebody else that does that, and I couldn't come up with a label. So there's a compliment, I suppose.
Thank you.
More than 130 years in business is something to shout about, for sure. But I'd say lots of companies, particularly 130-year-old companies, struggle to innovate because of, just it's the way things are in lots of instances. So how do you balance that kind of sense of history, the roots that you have, with this need to be, functioning in a digital, retail, modern design world?
So I'm not going to lie, it was a bit of a challenge.
Sure.
We had, when we first came into the business, when I personally came around 15 years ago, it was a bit of a challenge trying to convince the older generation, in this example, my father and my uncle, that, it took some time for us to kind of get the swing of things and then for them to trust us and for them to slowly let go and show them that, okay, we have learned so much from them, whether it's about the company or in our personal life as well, because, family businesses, they're all kind of intertwined together.
They're pretty closely
Exactly.
connected,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they were able to kind of teach us how to just keep things together. We wanted to, it's always a bit of a struggle to just, we know that our heritage is a solid foundation with what we have. And then we want to work more on that to become more relatable to the market. People in the past used to say like, oh, but Cedar, they're such an old, they've been around for so long, they're a bit outdated or something, you know what I mean? So that's one of the challenges that we had. And then we were able to really tackle that by showing them that we have come such a long way. We're very proud of our heritage, but we also are a modern company that can, switch around and
I mean, this is the thing. I pronounce your company name wrong, so it's Cedar. I'm saying cedar, like the tree. It's all right.
It's all right.
I apologise for that, but it's this thing, isn't it, that you're brought up in the company. It's a family business, so you understand the way things have always been done, and that's working, and it's all great. And then off you go to college, and you come back, and the decision might be, okay, I'm going to be in the family business. You're fourth generation. It was your great-grandfather, right?
My great-grandfather.
Yeah. And you're bringing your newfangled business ideas. And we're going to have an app, and we're going to do this. And your dad's like, hold on. Yeah, okay. So you have to bring that to that dynamics.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then moving down the line, it's important in order for a family business to be successful and to continue the legacy, there needs to be a form of like a succession plan as well. We need to know before that, who does what. And I think that's something that my father and my uncle did very well, is that they allocated the roles quite clearly within their own. Like, for example, I wanted to study advertising. That's something that no one influenced. But then when I moved into the business, they were like, okay, well, this is great. Then, if this is what you want to do, how about you handle this? And obviously there was someone there as well that I learned a lot from.
Sure. But that makes sense. I mean, that's...
Yeah, and then I have a cousin, for example, who handles the IT. My brother is the COO. Another cousin who does sales and development. It just kind of organically came in together.
Yeah.
And again, so it's important to have like a succession plan. Another very difficult conversation to have as in what happens 20 years from now, 30, 40, 50 years from now. So
those conversations, they're mortality conversations as well.
Exactly.
Those are tough things to face, particularly from a family
perspective.
Yeah.
So, but they were very supportive, very open to that conversation.
Okay, so that I guess has been key in the company. Where family companies work on a very different dynamic to standard corporate structures, don't they?
Yeah.
A lot more personal feelings come into play, I
Exactly.
suppose, and egos
Exactly.
and all that stuff. But that's obviously very important, and I guess communication lines were very open. It sounds to me as though that was.
We have to, We have to have very open communication. We try to meet at least. Actually, we do meet more or less once a day, twice a week. It depends who's in the country and who's not.
Right.
We try to always make sure that we have a unified vision as well.
Okay.
And this comes with, modernization of the company, moving more digital in the beginning, and then just trying to keep up with the flow of the market.
Okay, so what are the biggest challenges facing companies like yours, with such a long heritage in a region like this, particularly in a country like this, which is, the UAE is quite a lot younger than Sadar.
And very fast changing as well.
True, yeah. What's the toughest thing that you face, do you think, day to day?
I think just keeping up with the changes.
Really?
Seeing how fast the tastes change, the trends change. Now with social media, there's always trends. There's always something that's different. I went shopping yesterday to get a new sofa, and everything is. I went a few years ago, and everything's so different to what it was today. And this is in a matter of like 3-4 years. So having to keep up with that in a family business where decisions are not always fast to make. We calculate a lot of things before we make a final decision. So just having to be able to make those changes really quickly.
Okay. It's been a really tough, 4 or 5 months for businesses, obviously, in this region. What does resilience, how would you get that across? What does it look like, if you like, when you are a family business, you operate across a number of different markets in this region, and it's been very tough. How have you weathered that storm, if you like? What's your resilience key?
The most important thing is to have a long-term vision. Right. Like we are in a crisis now. As you mentioned, we've been around for 130 years. So
you've seen some tough times before.
We've seen some tough times, and I think it's always important to have a long-term vision and try not to compromise on certain things. Like what makes us special is the quality of the products that we offer, the price, the value that we get back, the service, all those things. So it's not very effective to cut costs and reduce the quality immediately. We have to try and adapt. And I think if we keep thinking of the short term and how we can just kind of stay afloat, it's not sustainable. And I think that's one of the things that we just said, this is going to be a tough time, just like other times. Let's persevere.
Okay. You're in a unique situation in lots of ways because you're trying to preserve that heritage, as you point out, the way you do things, while you innovate. And you've mentioned yourself the changes that we've seen, changes in retail, for example. But how has digital transformation change the customer experience? How have you got to grips with that in your sector? Home and interiors.
Yeah. So with us, actually, in our sector, it's a bit challenging in the beginning because who would have thought you can buy a sofa online, right? Like it's the type of thing where you're like, I need to sit, I need to see it, I need to be comfortable with it. In our field, the curtains and the blinds and the fabrics, it's something that you want to interact with. You want to see how it's like. It changes from outdoor lighting to indoor lighting, So a few solutions that we came up with over the last few years. One of them is like a premium home consultation. So the team comes to the house and then they bring all the samples and you can feel them, you can interact with them. And then there's also you can order a small sample on our website. And then you can see that. And then there's the evolution of AI as well. You can, when you go to a store, like a clothes store, for example, one of the easy decisions or the quick decisions is that you try it on and you like it and you buy it.
Sure.
Whereas with our product, because everything is customized and bespoke, you have to wait for the final. So you have to have a lot of trust in the company you're working with. So now with the help of AI and interior design and stuff, we're able to kind of bring that idea closer to the
You can see how your room looks with a certain color
in a matter of
whatever.
minutes. Whereas before it might take 2-3 days. You may lose the customer. He might change his mind. Whereas now, in a matter of minutes, even on a WhatsApp chat, send us your space. In a matter of minutes, we transform the space.
And you can turn that around.
Yeah.
And,
So that's kind of, and the blending between the digital and the physical. You know, our experience in store is still very unique.
Yeah.
But we also want to try and blend that with digital presence as well.
Okay. I love that word, phygital. For some reason, anyway, that's a different conversation. We live in a crazy region, right? This region moves faster, I think, than most places. It's huge growth that we've seen, obviously. Do you think customer expectations in the GCC have changed? How much faster have they changed than you could anticipate? That's the question, I guess.
I think it's changed a lot, as you mentioned.
You've got to be on your toes.
Yeah, you got to really, really go with it. You know, people are more exposed now with social media. People get to see things change. People are way more into traveling, let's say. You know, they go, they see different cultures. They want to bring all this in because we live in such a diverse region as well. So many people are coming from so many different backgrounds that we're exposed to so many things. So you go from house to house, and it's entirely different. Whereas maybe somewhere else you can go, and then we have more or less the same. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's something that we find very interesting, and we want to try and adapt in our stores. Is that, you know, there's so many tastes and so many different. We don't want to have everything just monotone and as minimalist as possible. We need to appeal to those that are into the maximalist as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's difficult, isn't it? Because, you know, very often too much choice it befuddles the brain.
Exactly.
It makes decisions harder.
Exactly.
There's always that story of the shoe salesman that it was a US shoe salesman in the 50s who said when a woman comes in to buy shoes, it was a shoe salesman, and she'll look at a pair, and then he'll bring her another pair. And then she'll say, "Can I see those?" And he'll always say, "Which one of these two would you like me to take away?"
Yeah.
And then he will show the other pair of shoes. Because if somebody asked for 3 pairs, they wouldn't buy. If they were choosing between one or another, he knew he had a sale.
Yeah.
It was the old sales technique. But in your case, I think it's very different because we live in this region where the demographic is so wild. The customer profile is wildly different to, I guess, almost anywhere else in the world. So what's the biggest mistake that legacy brands make when you try to kind of export your home market formula? Because you've had to do this, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the biggest mistakes is just thinking that all the markets are equal or the markets are the same.
Okay.
You have to treat every market differently, even within such a tight-knit society. Here, you have to kind of just know that everyone is different. You know, the tastes are so different. You can't communicate the same way as you would in the UAE versus Saudi Arabia or in Qatar or not. You know what I mean? It is more. There's a big diversity.
Because you would think, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You get a customer coming in to somebody like you, home interiors and blinds and curtains and all that kind of stuff. Your main kind of bread and butter, if you like. And you're like, I know what this guy's going to like.
Yeah.
But you really don't.
You don't.
Yeah.
And it's changing so much. Like in the past, you know, the curtains used to be very, what we call heavily draped. And then they had heavy patterns. They had all the swags. Exactly.
Yeah.
And now everyone is moving towards the more cleaner, minimal type of finish. But you still have the ones that are into the more heavily draped. So whenever we refresh our VM in our stores, we always try to make sure that we have a bit of both.
What's your VM?
Sorry, visual merchandising.
Visual merchandising. Okay, right.
Yeah. So
I'll keep up with the acronyms.
Yeah. Sorry.
So
it's important that we are, you know, both styles. Basically.
Right. So I mean, you operate across what? It's 11 countries. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
We have across
Okay, so how have you had to adapt the leadership and the decision making across those 11 very diverse countries?
We have a great team.
Okay.
Honestly,
Simple as that.
Yeah. We have a great team. We also trust the people that work with us. We make sure that not everything is centralized. So we know that certain team for example, we operate in Egypt. We have a big operations in Egypt. We have an operations in Iraq. We have an operations throughout the Gulf. So it's important for us to also understand that every team functions very differently as well. Like what works for us here may not work for our team in Egypt. We have to be very understanding of the culture there, of the way that people perform, the way that people are, and we just kind of find a way to adapt to that.
Okay. Okay. We're in a time now where the cost of living is high. Of course, it is. The business environment is much tougher. That's a given. For a business like yours, you operate in home improvements, design, discretionary spends. Really, I guess. What's your strategy for kind of staying on top, front of mind in customers when budgets are tighter?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
We add more value to what we're.
Okay.
It's easy to go to someone who'll just go and install your curtains, for example. Let's say. Yeah. Whereas what we do is we offer not only do we offer the before sales, the pre-sales, and during the sales, we have the full team to try and give them as much value for money. And then after that, we also offer after sales. So if there is something if you're moving locations, if we're able to readapt the curtains to your new space, we'll do that. If anything happened to your curtains, we'll take care of it.
Okay.
If you have a pet, a cat or a dog that loves your curtains far too much and they want to just, get a grip of it, we're able to able to assist you with that as well.
Okay, because you're competing. It's a competitive space, obviously, that you're in
now more than before.
Absolutely, you're competing with fast furniture, if you like, and digital first design platforms, I guess. You've got to keep your 130 years of heritage, your history up, but you've got this this market that moves. Trends drive the market at a pace now.
Yeah.
But you've got to keep here without sacrificing quality, haven't
Exactly.
you? Is that what you have to constantly kind of reinforce?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
We have to remind ourselves that we may get a lot of players in the market, but because of our history and our experience and everything, what we offer is genuinely unique to what is being offered in the market.
Yeah, and you need to stand out, I suppose. You're a creative director, Nahel, but you aren't just picking, patterns. How do you use data to inform your design decisions? How does a traditional retail business turn, the customer behavior, customer taste, I suppose, into an actual, product line?
We're able to see, it depends on what platform we're using to analyze. So whether it's, for example, something as simple as WhatsApp conversations. We get some questions asking about, hi guys, do you offer, for example, recently wall panels? Right. So wall panels are basically upholstered wall panels, similar to like the headboards behind the beds, but they're used across walls.
Okay.
So we got this question a lot over the last few years on WhatsApp, on inquiries on our emails and stuff. And we thought, it's kind of similar to what we do. We have an upholstery section that does a wonderful job. Mm-hmm. So why not put two and two together? We have a great carpentry section. Mm-hmm. In the past, people used to love the headboards to go above the curtains. So it kind of covers the rails. So we decided, why not put this and this together and come up with a new product line? So based on that, for example, we were able to see, okay, this is something that people are into, and so far it's been doing really well.
I was going to say, that's something that people look for now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It adds like in a form of aesthetics. It's fully customizable. You customize the colors. You can have embroidery. You can print on them. People are really looking for something.
So that's really responding to a customer
to what they're looking for. Yeah,
designs, if you like.
Also, we have the team that goes to all these exhibitions, and then they They see what the latest trends are, and then they come back with new products.
I was going to say, how do you keep ahead? I mean, because you're in a position where I guess you're seen as, a standard in some ways, and you would think, well, they're going to have this.
Yeah.
But what else do they have? What are they leading with?
Yeah.
You've got to keep that position up.
Exactly. That's also another challenge. I would say that the team is also. I mean, we attend multiple exhibitions around the world to see what the latest trends are, to see how we can bring some of those ideas back to us, adapt them to the region, because you can't copy paste ideas, and different things need to be adapted to the local markets and see if they work or not.
Right. What are you looking at for next year? What trends? Is there something that is maybe overhyped or something that's underinvested? That you're
I'm
looking
noticing a lot more people are leaning towards the concept of maximalism. So before, things used to be very minimal. Well, not before, currently actually. You go into a house and it's all kind of monotone. The curtains and the sofas and the chairs and the rugs, they all kind of blend in. Personally, I'm not a big fan of. I like more character in a space. I like more colors. I like more. So I feel like people are realizing this more. A lot of people I know are refreshing their homes, and they're asking me. They come to us for curtains and advice. So they're like, I don't want something too plain. I want a bit of pattern. I'm looking to add a bit more color to the room. Maybe I'll start with the curtains first, so I feel like people are going more towards that, with blending in a little, of course, keeping it, nice and clean at the same time.
Yeah.
But leaning more towards bolder patterns.
Okay. I'm asking for a friend. A final question for you, because we're over time, unfortunately, but that's a standard in this room. For a founder, or for maybe somebody looking at starting something, the dream would be to have a company that they can hand down that lasts 130 years, I'm sure. What's the one thing you need to instill in your culture, your approach to your company, that offers that kind of longevity, do you think? What's worked for you guys?
I think patience.
Okay.
Yeah, patience. It's very easy to...
Patience when your dad's telling you, no, we're not doing that. Yes, we are. No,
yeah.
Right.
I think it's patience, and when you see things from a very short, narrow mind versus when you see things from a much broader perspective. Okay. It's hard to... Sometimes when you're caught in everything, your first instinct is to be like, oh, drop this, or forget about it, or you have to be more patient to say, okay, this is...
Take a step back and re-examine.
It's a lot easier said than done. I'm sure it's been said many times, but it really is a lot easier said than done. So try and just power through. If this is something you really want, then power through, because you see it not only for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, for a legacy, hopefully, of more than 130 years.
Okay. Sounds like decent advice to me. Nahel Sello is Creative Director at Sidar Global. It's good to have you here. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more interviews like this from Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio. Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
It's the morning drive. A credit score is not just a bank number. There is a statement. It is now a critical part of your professional and personal reputation in the UAE. So, what do you need to know about your score? James Thomas is a UAE licensed independent financial advisor, consultant. I'm not sure what to call you. Consultant or advisor? What would you call yourself?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I know. What do you say when people say, do you use both? Because I normally would say consultant, then I thought, well, you're licensed to give advice. I know that. But consultancy, talking about stuff.
Yeah, there's a question to throw me off.
Guy what knows what he does.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's an aside, nothing to do with anything. So, look, let's talk about credit scores. This is interesting. It's been in the news this week as well.
Indeed it has. That's why I thought it was quite a topical subject.
Yeah, for property, of course. So landlords are now have access to getting that kind of information to decide whether or not they want to move ahead with your rent contract. It has a bearing on it, at least. So for most of us, your credit scores it kind of only matters when you want a credit card or a loan, really. You want to get yourself a product. It's more the loan thing, isn't it, really?
Yes, or it has been.
Yeah. It's now more like almost like a financial CV or a resume. It sort of follows you everywhere from your next sort of rental contract, your job application, maybe your insurance premiums. Is that the way we should be looking at it?
I think it is, yes, as you rightly say. In the past, it's always been quite an abstract thing that we only never really worried about when we wanted a loan or a mortgage or whatever it may be. Yeah. Whereas now it's becoming far more involved in all aspects of our financial situation and therefore becoming more important, even if we don't realise. Because again, it's a number that's generated somewhere by someone or something that we think we have no or little influence over. And in fact, again, that's not necessarily the case.
Well, no, it's not, is it? We'll kind of drill into that a little bit. I mean, a lot of us, I suppose, are a bit surprised when they learn that the credit bureau, it's the Al Ittihad Credit Bureau, they don't just track bank loans. So I guess things like phone bills, utility payments, they're a part of that resume as well. So if you're paying things back on time, paying things regularly, that's part of the process, isn't it?
The key word there, you said paying back, because of course, these things, even though we don't view them as such, if we're on a postpaid mobile phone contract, they are effectively giving us that month and we pay in arrears.
It's a credit arrangement,
It's a credit arrangement.
Yeah.
Likewise, with our utility bill, we generally pay monthly in arrears. Yeah. So again, there's an element of credit. They have provided that water, electricity, and taken away our wastewater in advance of us paying them. So it may not come across as a loan or a credit or an interest facility. It is viewed as such, and therefore the credit bureau are now using that as an additional information about our ability or history to repay things.
Well, and they have that historical data. I mean, in some cases, it tracks back a number of years, doesn't it? So it gives a pretty good indicator of, what you like with your money, what you like with your debt.
It does, whether we thought it did or not. But yes, that's obviously why they're now incorporating that. Because while we may view our loans, credit cards, mortgages as the only debt that we have, and therefore pay more attention to repaying those, if we're a little less or a little more lax with other areas of our finances, they are now being incorporated into this credit score.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've heard a little bit about this. I kind of pointed to this at the top. That, landlords, property management companies are starting to check credit reports before the lease gets signed.
Yes,
kind of thing. That's been in the news this week. So for a tenant with a fair or maybe not such a fair score, what are the real world consequences? Are you maybe looking at, I don't know, higher deposits or maybe even rejections?
Well, that's exactly it. Yes,
probably. I guess.
Yes, because obviously, if you're a landlord with a very attractive property that you have a number of potential tenants looking to rent it for that year. Well, before maybe you looked someone in the eye, shook their hand, worked out, how else did you assess? Yes, you may have obviously got bank statements and other information. It wasn't quite as basic as that. But now this is another tool to assess whether this person is worthy of renting that property. And if you've got one person who's got a good credit score, everything's been repaid on time, there's never any incidences of things not being repaid, versus someone who perhaps hasn't got quite such a clean record, even if it's what you may view as relatively minor things, i.e. maybe you have paid but it's been overdue or whatever it may be, and it's triggered your credit score to be lowered. You could find, as you rightly say, that they're going to go for the person with the better credit score.
Yeah.
It could
it's certainly going to jump you up the queue,
it's certainly going to jump you up the queue, yes.
Yeah.
The other, or if they still want to rent it to you, they could well say, well, your credit score is low, therefore we want a larger deposit to make sure that should you default, because your credit score indicates that you have a history of doing that, we want to protect ourselves. Or they may increase the rent because their view is that they want to make sure that should you pay 11 months of 12, that they've already secured what they feel is a fair rent for that property.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. I mean, you can see
might not
where
sound
that
like
could
it's
go.
fair from the tenant's point of view, but yeah, from the landlord's point of view, they want to protect themselves as well.
Well, it's an example, isn't it?
Yes.
History provides the example.
Yes.
But it's not just about borrowing money. Some employers are now, I'm reading, looking at credit history for senior or, particularly maybe finance-related roles.
Well, absolutely.
What are they looking for, though? Is it fear of debt? Are they looking at... Is it an indicator of reliability?
All of the above. To get licensed here, and indeed even more so in the UK, we have to go through a full credit check.
How did that go for you?
Thankfully, fine. But the point is all the things that you've just mentioned.
It was
because we have to declare, do we have mortgages? Do we have credit cards? Have we repaid them? Because when you're providing financial advice and dealing with people's money, you need to be, in this industry, viewed as being
you have to
trustworthy.
Practice what you
and
preach.
Practice what you preach.
Yeah.
And obviously also not to be overly influenced by the commissions or the earnings that you can generate from, this is purely from our point of view.
From your perspective, yeah. Yeah.
To make sure that the advice I give is not biased by the fact that I've got sitting on an enormous debt and therefore I've got to generate far more money to repay that. So therefore influencing the advice that I might give.
Right.
But this certainly I would imagine if you're looking to employ someone in finance role, HR role, where you're dealing with money, albeit indirectly, but if you're dealing with salaries and payments of people and the general finances of that business.
Yeah.
Well, are you financially sound yourself? Because again, if you've got a choice of candidates and someone's got a good credit score, again, it's not necessarily an indication of whether they can do the job properly, but it's a fact that if you've got a number of good candidates, one's got a better credit score, it could well push you further up the order.
It might for particular roles.
Certainly,
it's worth remembering, I suppose. I mean, it's another metric, isn't it?
It's another metric.
We're all about data.
We are, whether you like it or not. And certainly, it's a very easy. Is easy the right word? But certainly cut and dry. If you've got a good credit score, you're viewed in a far better light than someone with a lower credit score, even if you're of an equivalent standard or experience and knowledge of whatever the position is.
And the point is, I suppose, that you at some point you might want to borrow money to buy a house, for example. Most of us do at some point or another, or many of us do. So the better your credit score, the better chance. So you might as well try to have a better credit score.
And
but,
I guess, look, at just thinking slightly more around the subject, but if your credit score is high and it's shown that you have been diligent with your own personal finances, the inference is then that you would be the same for the company. Because if you've repaid all your bills on time, never overdue, etc., the same principle, again, whether it's true or not, but that's how the thought process I would imagine they're going along is what he's done, they've done looked after their own finances correctly. If we're employing them to run part of our finance, then we'd expect them to apply the same principles to the business.
Yeah, fair. I mean, it goes without saying, doesn't it? It doesn't necessarily track that if your credit score's not great, you're a horrible person.
And I'm not saying that in any which way.
That's not what we're saying at all.
Not at all.
But the simple fact is, it is something that
it's just another metric
be looked at.
And it's a powerful metric that a lot of people, I think, are using more often.
Even things like a postpaid mobile contract can be tied to the score, right? So if you are a newcomer to the UAE, how does a lack of credit history or a poor credit history create friction? If you're setting up, basic services, you arrive, you're going to get a phone, you're going to go and hire a car.
It was difficult, wasn't it? I had to put a 2,000 dirham deposit.
Yeah, but that's just for the way you look. I mean,
it may well be. But my point being, that was because I was new, they didn't trust me. They wouldn't say that, but that's the reality of it. So you had to put a deposit down to get the postpaid contract, which I always thought was slightly strange.
But them was the rules.
They were the rules because they wanted that security deposit that should I not pay, there was a sufficient cash buffer that they were protected.
I just wonder if I can't even remember that far back. It seems like years ago. I wonder if there's one.
I don't know. And again, I should have known, but I'm afraid I haven't looked into this. But certainly, now you would imagine.
Well, it'd be a happy surprise if I cancel the phone, but I don't know.
The credit score will have an influence on that because if you've got a good credit score, the phone provider or the package provider may well say, well, we don't need one because your score is sufficient versus someone whose score is lower. So that's the friction that's created. You then need to find additional funds just to simply get your phone up and running.
Yeah, for sure. What are you hearing about this? I mean, some insurers have started integrating credit data into their pricing.
Yes.
Right. Well, that's what it's a natural next step. Could a bad credit score actually make your car insurance more expensive in that case? And how does an insurer justify that connection, I suppose, as well?
Well, it's the same principle in the sense that, again,
the credit score doesn't mean that you're not. You're going to be a bad driver, so the risk isn't, or is it?
But the risk to them is they don't. So there's one area they're adding an extra layer of assessment.
Okay. Because
that's how I view it. Because yes, it's the car. Are you driving a performance car and you're 18 years old, or so that would be a risk. That's a very clear one. But this is also the 18-year-old. Have they got sufficient funds to make sure that they're paying the insurance premium? Now, especially if you're requesting to be on a monthly. I know most people it's an annual policy, but so that's why it's perhaps not quite as common yet. But if you were wanting to be able to stagger the payments, they will want to see proof that you've been able to do that with other forms of credit.
Okay.
So therefore, while you're driving might be impeccable and you've got a full no claims bonus, if there are other areas that are not quite so efficient in your financial situation, again, it's all a system and a algorithm that's probably calculated this and said that, well, if there's an element that's not being repaid quite as efficiently or regularly, therefore we will add X% to the premium to protect ourselves.
Digital actuaries.
Yes.
That's the point. The thing is this, I mean, I have no idea what my credit score is, and I'm kind of tempted to have a look. I know you can, but most of us don't know.
No, I'm the same.
Where we stand, right? So what is considered a healthy score then, and at what point does it start to become, a hurdle if it's not up to scratch? How does that work?
Well, again, I'm much like you. I don't know the exact numbers and how, but if we were just to say 1 to 10, just use a simple example.
Yeah.
If you've got a perfect credit score of 10, then clearly you've repaid everything. You're deemed to be a very low risk in the sense of lending money to. If you've got a 0 or 1, then you are high risk because there's been evidence in your past history to suggest that you haven't been able to either repay or keep up to date with your repayments. And therefore, they either will refuse to lend you further credit or will charge you a lot more. I remember, again, just personal example, when I was at university, I remember my dad saying to me, get a credit card just to get your credit score, get you on the ladder, get you recognised, get you seen.
Yeah, okay.
Not necessarily use it particularly much if you don't have to.
So there is a benefit to being seen, isn't there?
That's it. And again, yes. So as well as having a good, bad or indifferent credit score, if you don't have any credit, it's almost as bad as having bad credit because they don't know how you're going to respond if they haven't got any evidence to. So it's one that can be, it's a bit of a strange situation that because having no score, because you've been very good and diligent, perhaps you've saved up for things and not borrowed money to pay for things. But then when you do come to the point, maybe a mortgage, something more significant, you haven't had any evidence that or any previous experience, and that's almost viewed as bad as having bad experience.
Because there's no history.
Because there's no history.
Exercising financial due diligence and saving to buy things rather than buying them on credit. Yes. So you're kind of penalised for being financially good in some ways.
You can be, which is a really frustrating thing with a lot of this situation. So yes, it could well be that, as we've said in previous conversations, get a credit card, use it, but pay it off each month. Then you are showing your diligence with that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a policy of doing that, but that was a hard-learned lesson. That's a very different thing. We've all had issues like this. I mean, the UAE is moving away from the check system, right? But they're very often still used for rent. I know that. But, a bounce check, even if it's accidental, impacts the score. Obviously, that's a mark. That's just kind of a stain on your record, isn't it?
It is. And as we've discussed before, and as the rules used to be, whether they still are, that it is not in there anymore, is it? But it used to be a criminal offence to bounce a cheque.
It's not. It's a civil.
It's a civil one.
Yeah, it's not anymore. Yeah. At a certain level, that is.
But my point is that was very much you didn't bounce a cheque.
No, you did not.
So where this is all coming from is because we've moved forward from those previous regulations, is to try and introduce some way of assessing someone's worthiness of being given credit.
Okay.
And so this whole story has built out around that, and this is why it becomes more and more important to be aware.
I mean, the thing is, though, how often do you sign things these days?
Exactly, all the time.
Do you?
Oh, sorry. I mean, but no. Even if it's virtually, you're agreeing to things all the time.
But actually physically signing,
very rarely.
I never do it. I do it for rent once a year, and my signature's because I don't do it. My signature's not very practiced anymore. So I've had a few checks
returned. It's a digital
returned.
signature, isn't it? We tap. We put either our phone or our card, but that's the signature.
Yeah, but with checks, I've had, I just don't sign things and it's come back and then it's like your signature doesn't match.
Yes.
And I'm like, no, but I'm the same person. Then I have to go to the bank and they're like, no. And then there's a charge for that. And then the landlord's upset. And then I'm like, well, is this a game? I start to, then the conspiracy theories run. But I know that's an issue on my credit score. I've no idea how much of an issue. I need to check, actually.
Again, my assessment would be an issue with a signature would not trigger a bad credit score.
I don't know how it works.
That would be my, again, because you'd have to think that's very harsh. It's one thing it being rejected because you haven't necessarily bounced it. It's just being rejected because me being a left-handed person, my signature never being quite the same.
Well, because you're left-handed?
Well, always maybe being right-handed the same, but my wife's right-handed.
You
It's
do
always
tend to
perfect
smudge more
every time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but then that's girls.
Yeah.
What do you do? Do you know, it was interesting recently. My wife did the rent checks this year because it's a joint account, so she signed them, and then there was one where it came back because obviously somebody had questioned the signature.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, so I wait to hear from the real estate agent because it went back to the agency, and then about 10 days later, it came through that it had cleared. So they'd obviously just resubmitted it. And whoever looked at that, or the system re-looked at it, it was obviously okay. But I never saw the check.
Nope.
So I do wonder about the system. But then what do I know? All right, so let's look at, if you're doing well in credit score terms, what's the best way to keep them in the excellent zone? Is it, if you've got too many credit cards, you've got a few credit cards, does that hurt? Even if you pay them off, does that have a bearing on it?
It can do, yes.
Right.
Yeah. Certainly having multiple credit cards, and funny enough, having one credit card can also not, again, different credit bureaus assess things differently.
There's no one rule.
There's no one rule. That's
Right.
the answer. Yes. So don't have a dozen, but 2 or 3 is probably fine. But
I've got one.
But as do I.
Yeah.
But it's more the usage of them and the repayment of. Likewise, and again, this is now expanding. It's the same thing with our. Don't wait for the overdue message, the red bill or the red email. That's the simple things to do. Is having it automated if you can, so it all just gets paid and you don't have to worry about it. Get it done.
Okay. How do you improve a poor score then? If your score's low because you've made a few mistakes in the past,
Time.
It's just time.
Again, my understanding, it's time. It's then showing that okay, there was some mistakes made, but look, the next 12 months I've paid everything on time. My credit cards have been paid on time. Right. If I did have a personal loan, every month it's been paid. That's my understanding, the only way to improve one's credit score is to show that you've seen the light and you know you can repay everything. You have been repaying got back on top of your finances.
It is a bit like that, though, seeing the light, because it's a pretty dark place when the financial pressure's on. So when you get to that, it's like being in a tunnel. When you get to, you get towards the end and there's the light.
It does make it sound very.
I know it's a bit of an extreme.
It is.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, it's as you mentioned, it's not most of the time it's not a real person now. It's an AI machine that's looking for patterns.
Do you say please when you ask AI to do something, by the way?
Probably, yes, because you assume you're talking to someone and it's just the manners you've been taught.
Because I do that. If I prompt AI and ask a question, I'm normally like, please, and I think, why am I doing that? But apparently, my son told me, he's 23, he knows things that I could never, ever know. He says, good to do that, because, the manners, the human connection, that's going to matter with AI. In a few years. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
No idea. But all I would say it's just good to keep it up, because then when you are speaking to a real person, you've still got your P's and Q's.
Exactly. Well, manners maketh the man. Or woman. If you had to give a piece of financial hygiene advice, this keeping your score clean, if you like, what would it be? What's the most important thing to do? Bearing in mind credit scores.
Yeah. Keep everything up to date.
Okay. All right.
Don't let things fall behind, because that's where the scores or the red flags or even yellows, if you're going to use a traffic light system, it's just keeping on top. And a lot of these companies do have a traffic light system. That's another way to look at it. Red, no chance. Amber, maybe with caveats. Green, it goes through. And that's the way to think of it.
I hadn't thought of it that way. That's a good way to think about
Yes.
it. All right then. So every utility payment, phone bill makes a difference. Just a point, actually. If you want to check your credit score, you can do it through the Al Ittihad Credit Bureau at the AECB. There's a portal. There's an app for that. You can use government apps like TAM or Dubai Now. You can do it through some banking apps as well.
You can.
I was just thinking.
Yep, well worth doing.
Okay. James Thomas is a UAE licensed independent financial advisor, consultant, more stuff
More stuff.
like that. Good to see you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can stay up to date with all of our interviews at mirabusiness.fm.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.